a land torn by war, where the clash of steel was as common as the morning mist, a young boy named Ryo lived a simple, peaceful life. His days were filled with the warmth of his family's love, the scent of cherry blossoms, and the gentle guidance of his father, a master swordsman who taught him the way of the blade, not for violence, but for protection and discipline. But peace is a fragile thing. One fateful night, the moon hid behind dark clouds as a group of ruthless samurai, led by the merciless Lord Kagomori, descended upon their village. They came like a storm, their armor glinting ominously, their swords thirsty for blood. Ryo, hidden away by his mother, watched in horror as his world was set ablaze. He saw his father fall, fighting bravely to protect them. He heard his mother's final, desperate cry. In a single night, everything he held dear was turned to ash and memory. Consumed by a grief so profound it felt like a physical wound, and a rage that burned hotter than any fire, Ryo fled into the haunted forests. He was no longer a boy, but a vessel of pure hatred. His only purpose, the only thing keeping him alive, was the burning desire for revenge. He would find Lord Kagomori and every last one of his men. He would make them pay. Days turned into weeks, and Ryo survived on roots and fury. It was in this desperate state that a voice, ancient and seductive, slithered into his thoughts. It promised him the power to avenge his family, the strength to crush his enemies. The voice belonged to Shaitan, a demon of shadow and despair, who fed on hatred. Shaitan materialized before him, a being of smoke and embers, with eyes that held the coldness of the abyss. The demon offered a bargain. "Give me your soul," it hissed, "and I will grant you power beyond your wildest dreams. Your enemies will fall before you like wheat before a scythe." Ryo, blinded by his thirst for vengeance, didn't hesitate. He accepted the dark pact. A searing pain shot through him as a demonic crest burned itself onto his skin. With this mark came incredible power, but the cost was steep. His memories of love, of laughter, of his family's gentle faces began to fade, replaced by a cold, relentless focus on his grim task. He was becoming a weapon, a phantom driven only by the echoes of a tragedy he could barely remember. Under Shaitan's cruel tutelage, Ryo trained for years. He mastered forbidden sword techniques, his movements becoming supernaturally fast and deadly. The demon pushed him past every human limit, honing him into the perfect instrument of death. With each passing year, the boy Ryo once was disappeared further, leaving only the Shadow Ronin, a name whispered in fear across the provinces. He began his hunt, tracking down Kagomori's men one by one. Each duel was a brutal, swift affair. He moved like a ghost, his blade a blur of dark energy. With every life he took, Shaitan's influence grew stronger. The demon's whispers a constant chorus in his mind, urging him toward more bloodshed, more hatred. Ryo felt a grim satisfaction with each victory, but it was a hollow feeling, a brief flicker of light in an ever-expanding darkness. The warmth of his past was almost gone, replaced by an eternal, chilling cold. His path of vengeance inevitably led him to a tranquil village, nestled in a hidden valley. It was here that he was to find Kagomori's most trusted general. But instead, he found something he hadn't felt in years. He found her. Her name was Hannah, a healer with a kind heart and eyes that saw past the monster he had become. She wasn't afraid of him. When he was injured after a skirmish, she tended to his wounds without question, her touch gentle, her presence calming the storm within him. For the first time since his family's death, Ryo felt a flicker of warmth. Hannah spoke of peace, of forgiveness, of letting go of the past. Her words were like water on a parched soul, a stark contrast to Shaitan's constant goading. He found himself spending more time in the village, watching Hannah care for others, listening to the laughter of children. Faint, ghostly images of his own childhood began to surface: his mother's smile, his father's proud gaze. These glimmers of his past were agonizing. The memories were blurry, painful reminders of what he had sacrificed. Shaitan sensed this change, this wavering in his resolve. The demon's whispers grew more insistent. "Morive nomos." She makes you weak, it snarled in his mind. Love is a poison. Hatred is your strength. Remember your purpose. The conflict tore Ryo apart. One part of him yearned for the peace Hannah offered, for the chance to feel human again. The other, the part bound to Shaitan, screamed for vengeance, for the bloody conclusion he had sought for so long. He was standing at a crossroads, with one path leading to salvation and the other to eternal damnation. The choice, he knew, would define not just his future, but the fate of his very soul. The time for hesitation was over. Ryo learned that Lord Kagemori himself was marching towards the hidden valley, intending to destroy it just as he had destroyed Ryo's home village years ago. History was threatening to repeat itself, and Hana and her people were in grave danger. A new feeling surged within Ryo, one that was stronger than his desire for revenge. The need to protect. He would not let another innocent life be extinguished by Kagemori's cruelty. He raced to intercept the warlord, his heart a battlefield of conflicting emotions. As he confronted Kagemori's army, the warlord himself stepped forward, a cruel smirk on his face. "So, the ghost of the past has come to haunt me," Kagemori taunted. "You have your father's eyes, but they are filled with a darkness he never knew." The duel began. Their blades clashed in a shower of sparks, a dance of death under the darkening sky. Kagemori was a master swordsman, but Ryo, fueled by Shaitan's power, was his superior. He fought with a ferocity that stunned Kagemori's soldiers. But as he fought, he wasn't thinking of revenge. He was thinking of Hana, of the peaceful village, of the life he could have. He saw his father's face, not as a victim, but as a teacher, reminding him that the sword was for protection. Edi Sarmet, Kagemori, his demonic blade, at the warlord's throat. Shaitan screamed in his mind, "Finish him. Fulfill your vow. Complete your revenge." All he had to do was make one final movement, and his long quest would be over. But as he looked into Kagemori's terrified eyes, Ryo saw not a monster, but a man defeated. Killing him would bring no peace, no solace. It would only plunge him deeper into the abyss, sealing his fate as Shaitan's slave forever. He remembered Hana's words, "Vengeance is a cycle of pain. True strength lies in breaking it." With a defiant roar that was entirely his own, Ryo lowered his sword. "No," he said, the word directed not at Kagemori, but at the demon within. "My vengeance ends here." Kagemori was stunned. Ryo turned his back on his vanquished foe, choosing mercy over hatred. This act of defiance enraged Shaitan. "You dare betray me," the demon bellowed, its form erupting from Ryo's body, a terrifying spectacle of shadow and fury. "Your soul is mine." The final battle was not against a samurai, but against the demon he had invited into his heart. Shaitan was immensely powerful, a whirlwind of dark energy. Ryo was weakened, his demonic power waning as he rejected its source. He fought desperately, parrying blows that could shatter mountains. But he was not just fighting with his sword. He was fighting with his reclaimed memories. He focused on the love for his family, the kindness of Hana, the warmth of the sun on his face as a child. Each positive memory was a shield against the demon's despair. He was no longer the Shadow Ronin, a being of hate. He was Ryo, a son, a protector, a man who had chosen love. Channeling all the light left in his soul, he plunged his sword not into the demon, but into the demonic crest on his own body, the source of their pact. The explosion of light was blinding. When Itfaded Shaitan was gone, banished back to the shadows, Ryo collapsed, the demonic mark gone, leaving only a faint scar. He was free. His soul was his own. He returned to the village, not as a warrior, but as a guardian. He laid down his sword, choosing to build a future rather than dwell on a painful past. He and Hana worked together, nurturing peace in the valley. The story of the Shadow Ronin became a legend, a cautionary tale about the consuming nature of hatred, and a hopeful reminder that even in the deepest darkness, the choice to embrace the light is always possible. Ryo had lost his family, but in the end, by choosing love over revenge, he finally found his way back home. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more content like this. We'll see you in the next video.